Yo guys, Punkrat in the video. So here's a concept that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and with phase 4 right around the corner, it's time to make this video. So a really long time ago, in fact, I think it might have been almost a year ago at this point, basically one of the first videos that I ever made was pondering the notion, can you play classic WoW casually? At that point, I had a lot of people writing in my comment section since they were unsure before the game had actually released whether it would only cater towards hardcore players, and if somebody who's a little bit more casual can get the same level of enjoyment out of the game as the min-maxers. My answer then was that, yeah, you can. In fact, in a lot of ways, Classic is more casual friendly than the current state of retail, and from a holistic view, I still stand by that view. You could have been on vacation for the last 6 months and just started your character now, and you'd probably enjoy the whole Classic experience, maybe not the launch experience, but you would be able to hit level 60, eventually get in a raid guild, and pretty much catch up to people relatively quickly. Or you can just stay low level and focus on professions, do quests, read the stories, play the auction house, maybe make a twink, and just queue low level BGs over and over again. There's a myriad of ways to enjoy the game. The most important part in Classic is the social element. So as long as you have friends to hang out in Discord with, as long as you have a guild and you're active in guild chat or guild Discord, you can definitely enjoy the core of what makes this game great. But even with that being said, I think the way that Classic actually played out on the mainstream level of being a Battle.net integrated Blizzard official game was a whole lot different than most of us were expecting. And basically where I'm trying to go with this is the culture of min-maxing. I'd say most of the player base that's making up the active core of Classic WoW right now are the min-maxers. They're the people that are fighting for World of Warcraft logs, the people that are fighting for speed clears or trying to get BIS gear. The reality is that the open world is relatively calm nowadays. I went to Stranglethorn at one point and there was pretty much no one there. A far cry from the Stranglethorn Vietnam that you see in the memes all over. The way Classic played out is pretty much everyone rushed to 60 really quick, where back in the day people would struggle extremely hard to hit level 60, and so you'd have a ton of people spread out through all of the different level ranges. Well, now everyone's level 60 and people pretty much just log on, get their buff, log off, and then show up to raid. I know a ton of people that are still raiding in Classic WoW, but WoW is not their actual main game. They might be playing League of Legends, they might be playing some FPS game, or they might have a different focus entirely, and they're basically just logging on for the raid every single week, or doing the little things that they need to do to get prepared for the raid, and then logging off, and that's pretty much their gameplay experience. While there's nothing inherently wrong with doing this, if that's what you're comfortable with, the fact that I'd say it's so widespread makes it so that other elements of the experience are kind of lacking. The PvP experience has fallen relatively short, and I'd say most of the player base is not really taking part in any of that experience, whether it's world PvP or BGs. It's definitely a minority of the community that's involved in that sort of gameplay. People are doing less dungeons, it's become a lot harder to find dungeon groups, the PvP experience is relatively inconsistent, and raiding requires quite a bit of dedication and time commitment. But with phase 4 right around the corner, really what I want to talk about, I think phase 4 is a much better experience for the casual player than phase 2 to phase 3. Phase 1 was probably the glory time for all players, I'd say, and it was one of the greatest World of Warcraft experiences I've had, and I'm sure a lot of you guys shared as well. The rush to level 60, the whole open world experience, the cluster, the queue times, the Twitch clips, pretty much everything combined was definitely something special that I won't forget for a long time, and it'll be fun to always reminisce with my friends going back to that same experience. But let me explain to you why I think phase 4 is going to be a much better experience again for the player base at large. The first thing that I want to talk about are 40-man raids. The concept of a 40-man raid is exactly what you'd expect from having 40 people all organized within one event. It's large, and when something is so big, it's hard to manage and it's also hard to sustain. There's so many little factors in a 40-man raid scenario that need to be discussed. The first is of course consistency. 40-man raids require a ton of preparation, not only from the individual players themselves, but from the raid leadership as well. There's spreadsheeting, roster control, finding a time where you can actually have 40 people come together where they're all available. It's just a massive thing that needs to be managed. It's tough to just start a 40-man raid out of nowhere at the snap of a finger. People are pugging all the time, but it takes a while to actually form the entire pug, and a lot of the times those pugs are actually built from a core base already, so they might have already 15 to 20 players ready to go. Well, this is a major change that happens in phase 4. We have zul'gurub, which is the first ever 20-man raid introduced to the game. Not to mention, it's not on a 7-day lockout like you'll see for any of the 40-mans. You can do it twice a week, and this gives you the opportunity so just jump in whenever you want to go. If you're a casual player and you don't have the time to commit to an actual raid schedule with a bunch of hardcore counterparts, ZG is an absolute blessing. You can go away for 2 weeks. If you have to bring your kids to like a baseball tournament or something and you're going to be away for a week and a half, you can go ahead and do that. And then once you come back, if you feel like doing a ZG, you can log on and you'll most likely find one right away. World chat looking for group chat is going to be filled with ZG pug after ZG pug after ZG pug. People are going to be doing them on their alts, their second alts, their third alts, their fourth alts, and casual players are going to be jumping in and out pretty much non-stop. The next factor is of course what everyone cares about: loot, epic rewards. In a 40-man raid scenario, especially as a certain class, it's tough to get even one epic. There's so many different people that need loot, it's kind of tough to disperse it around evenly, and you have to focus on the members that have shown the most dedication. Melee DPS and caster DPS specifically struggle very hard with this. You'll see mages who have been raiding since the first week of Classic that barely have any epics or BIS items. And this affects your psyche in terms of what you're getting out of the time that you're putting in. It's not even necessarily being greedy and wanting every single item, or not being happy and getting salty when you don't get items. It's just the law of human nature. If you feel like you're doing something and doing something and doing something and never getting rewarded for it, or never seeing a prize for the time that you're putting in, it'll kill the motivation to keep wanting to play subconsciously. Well, in zul'gurub, everyone is going to be able to get loot. There's a ton of loot that drops to begin with, and only 20 people to disperse it with. A lot of those people that are doing ZG might be there for rep, they might be there just for one specific item or an enchant, and this means that you might not even have to compete with the people that are actually in the raid with you. There could be a bunch of like full tier 2, fully decked out people that are just doing it, and all of the loot that drops goes in your pocket. That's a really nice feeling. It's a feeling of catch-up, and that's what ZG provides, catch-up mechanics. People who weren't able to get weapons. There are tons of weapons in ZG at epic value, epic rewards that you're going to be able to get quite easily. There's trinkets. You might not have an epic trinket. Well, you'll have the opportunity to get one. All you casters that are sad that you never got the Talisman of Ephemeral Power, well, now you can all get your Zandalarian Hero Charm, and that's a really nice feeling. Not to mention Bloodvine, which is coming up, and gonna allow people to actually start pushing really strong DPS and compete with some of the better geared casters in their groups without having to get all of the items that they need from actual raiding. Now the next element is actually striving for an endgame goal. In Blackwing Lair, you don't really have that. You're raiding because you're trying to get parses or you're trying to get items off the bosses, but there's not a meta goal that you're trying to get from actually doing it. Well, with zul'gurub, there's rep and rep rewards, meaning you're doing ZG for an actual purpose outside of doing the raid for loot. This is going to give people a little bit of an incentive to log on and try to push for ZG clears, which I don't think can be understated at all. That's something that's super important. Underlying goals are just as important as the overarching ones, and ZG definitely provides that. Now, one thing that I definitely think makes ZG a lot more casual friendly is in relation to the min-maxing culture of Classic. This does not exist for zul'gurub. Once ZG releases, there's not going to be a push for world first. Nobody cares about speed clear timings for zul'gurub. If you guys look at the world first history from back in vanilla, zul'gurub is not even listed. They literally skip over it as a raid tier. It's not counted as a real competitive raid tier. There's a feeling right now with Classic raiding where everything you do is logged. There's always somebody in the raid who's logging what's going on. And it's almost like living in North Korea where you feel like someone's always watching you and you have to perform at a certain level. If you don't, then you're gonna have bad parses and then people are gonna make fun of you, or that's gonna reflect badly on you. Every raid that you do is kind of stressful in that sense. ZG does not have that whatsoever. You can actually have fun, you can relax, you can hang out in Discord with your friends, a 20-man intimate group, and actually enjoy your time, laugh, joke. A wipe happens because of something stupid, everyone laughs about it, no one cares about the logs, no one cares about the time cleared. You're going to actually enjoy the game again in a raid scenario, and this is definitely something that I've been struggling with. Guilds have become so competitive, and honestly I fell into that trap as well because I'm quite competitive as well. But the most fun that I have in this game when I'm raiding is when I'm just having a good time with people. And I feel like the idea of logs kind of brings the worst out of me. I get so competitive and I'm trying to perform every single raid that I forget that it's a game and I'm trying to have fun. It's not about the leaderboards. It's not about pride in the stats that you have on the log sheet so that you can feel good about yourself and have an elitist attitude about your DPS. That's ridiculous. And then what I just stated again with the intimate feeling of ZG, that's super important. Think about Karazhan. Karazhan is a very simple raid. It kind of looks cool, it's got cool bosses, but I think the reason why you'll hear so many people say that Karazhan is their favorite raid, and go ahead and type in the comments and you guys will see, if you start this discussion, a huge portion of the player base, their favorite raid ever was Karazhan. And I think this is because of the 10-man element. You remember doing it with some of your best buddies. When I did Karazhan back in 2007, it was with a guild that me, my brother, and a lot of our high school friends had created, and I had such incredible times with my buddies back in those days, and that makes Karazhan stick out much more than most other raid experiences for me. I still remember like very specific things when my friend Josh just hit level 70 and we brought him into Karazhan. He got his tier 4 helmet for his hunter, and he was so happy. He just started yelling and going crazy in Discord. It was the first epic that he had ever gotten, and that's one of the memories that just sticks out in my head. ZG is going to be super fun for you guys. ZG is going to be much more intimate and a better social experience. Now outside of that, Phase 4 is also coming with Arathi Basin and world bosses, and this I think is going to reinvigorate a little bit of world PvP and PvP in general. The player versus player world in Classic has definitely gotten stale, but with the introduction of world bosses, I think guild versus guild battles and communication within your faction to fight against the opposing faction is gonna be reinvigorated a little bit. And this I think is a good thing, especially considering the fact that I think it's gonna be more spread out through the world rather than just in 2 areas or 3 areas. I'm really hoping that this is a positive for guilds. I hope that more guilds are gonna get access to world boss items that they might have not otherwise had access to, depending on certain factors on their server, like being horde dominated and whatnot, but hopefully this is a net benefit. And then Arathi Basin is hitting live servers, which is by far the most fun BG within Classic. I made a video on that if you guys want to check it out. It's titled Why I Think AB is the Best BG Ever. And Arathi Basin, while being one of the best BGs ever, is also much more casual friendly than the rest. The BG itself never turtles. It's always fun, it's always entertaining, it always feels different, and I definitely think it's going to bring back some players who might have been bored of Classic PvP to start enjoying it again. So that's pretty much the video. One thing that I've really been realizing over the last 2 months or so is that min-max culture is actually something that I'm not super interested in. The competitive side in me gets sucked into it, but I feel like it wears me out and kind of ruins the experience, and I think a lot of you guys are definitely relating to that. So one thing that I'm super happy about is the release of ZG hopefully easing that a little bit or shining some light on what makes this game great again. I think in general, the 20-man raid scenario kind of does that, and going into the Burning Crusade, 25-man raids, hopefully things will be slightly different from how they played out in Classic. But even with that being said, AQ40, naxx, I still love Classic. It's going to be a great experience. I just hope as a community we can find a way to really enjoy this game properly again. Whether that's a pipe dream, whether that's unrealistic, it's just kind of the epiphany that I've sort of come to over the last couple months. So I hope you guys are going to enjoy ZG and Phase 4. I personally think it's probably going to be one of the best experiences for most people out there. I'm definitely going to be there for the launch, and maybe if you guys play on Fairlina, I'll see you in a ZG pug. So hopefully we can all have a great time. Hopefully we can hang out in Discord, joke around, have some fun, and have a great time. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, please make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. This video specifically is probably going to spark a lot of dialogue, so let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And with that said, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.